So your company's getting all these partnership deals, and now your CEO is biting people's noses.
I do have one question, though, Doug. Did it taste like chicken?
Oh my God, a new intro!
Yeah, we figured we'd do something a little bit more upbeat to match the changing tone this week. But this is still Beyond the Bench. That's still Nick Morgasen. I'm still Nick Fodera. And, Nick, we got ourselves a show today.
By the way, welcome to episode 48 on our voyage to episode 50. Follow us on social media across the network at ETV Network. Follow us on Twitter at Beyond the Bench 1. Same thing on Facebook. Same thing on Instagram.
And on TikTok. So
yeah, I thought we'd have a little fun. I was talking to Nick over the last couple of weeks. I said, that intro is very depressing, the one we had over the first 40.
Yeah, and the last couple of episodes have been really heavy in terms of stuff we needed to talk about. But this week we're going to try and take a little bit of a different tack where you don't feel like every time you finish watching our show, you need to take a shot of bourbon. So
I know, right? I mean, so we got a lot. I mean, let me just start with first. There is going to be some controversy because this show seems to love controversy. This network loves controversy.
This is what we feed on because content is everything and everything is content, right?
I know, unfortunately, but we'll get into it. The NBA, I know this isn't our sports show, but this became a public interest story. We'll get to a certain coach, which has probably destroyed his career. That's the best way I can put it.
Oh, yep.
Also, Beyond Meat and Taco Bell made a new food item, or if you want to say made a food baby. We'll get to that. Also, is Adam Levine cheating on his wife? Now, you'd probably be saying, Nick and Nick, wait a minute, you're doing a celebrity gossip story?
It gets funnier, believe me.
It gets funnier.
There's an angle to this story that fits us to a T, and we couldn't let a week pass without talking about it at least a little bit.
Also, could Floyd Mayweather be wanting to fight Connor McGregor again? But plus a bunch of a lot of other funny things as well. So make sure you stay with us. This is going to be a great episode, and let's get started. Unfortunately, we got to start here. So Celtics coach Ime Udoka reportedly facing suspension, which actually was reportedly a year, for engaging in intimate relationship with staffer.
Now, this story originally broke literally 10 minutes after we finished recording Empty the Bench for this week. And for the longest time, it was vague that the Celtics were suspending him for personal, team-related, inappropriate, conduct-related reasonings, which is as vague as you can get without saying, well, it's the bare minimum of what you can say in terms of a pre-suspension announcement press release.
I mean, the way this story looks, and if you want to go check out how we talked about the Robert Sarver situation with the Suns and the Mercury, because these two stories coincide with one another.
They are connected, believe it or not, because the response to one informs the response to the other. But what we found out as time went on is that the Celtics coach Ime Udoka, who actually did a pretty damn good job with this team, taking them deep into the playoffs last
the finals.
It took him to take them to the finals. Thank you for correcting me.
Which is even worse. What's even worse about this story is he is one of the, and I hate to say this because I don't like giving people credit when they do dumb shit afterwards, but he's a brilliant coach. I can't deny it.
He is a brilliant coach.
But I can't, the morality clause is now a 0. Because
morality clause is a 0, but let's explain why. So apparently he engaged in an intimate consensual, now that's an important qualifier, intimate consensual relationship.
Which means of age.
Yes, of age, which is with a staffer who worked for him. I would say under his staff, but that's a little bit too much. That's too
Well,
much
in the
of a
organization. That's what they said. In the organization.
Yes, within the organization. So,
which, by the way, if people are wondering, is this only a one-team rule? No, this actually, a lot of teams follow this rule. A lot of businesses around the world follow this rule. You don't.
It's not a league wide. It's not a league wide rule.
It's not a league wide.
Every individual team has their own approach to it.
No, it's not that it's a league-wide rule. It's kind of one of those unwritten rules. You don't date somebody within your superior or your organization because what happens? What happens if it goes rapid and something happens and it goes wrong?
Well, it's a bad look for the Celtics, which is why they are, which is why they're kind of taking preemptive action. Because if this thing went sideways, you didn't want, ESPN to pick up on it later, and then or in the season or in the midst of a playoff run, and then all of a sudden the season is derailed. But the suspension of Robert Sarver and this happening, a couple days after he gets announces his intention to sell both the Suns and the Mercury, I think the two are connected because the response to Sarver and the backlash to the response of Sarver is, I think, informing the Celtics' approach here.
But you know what, though? You know what's kind of weird about this whole situation? The Celtics reacted right away, as opposed to Sarver and the Suns. Now, I guess it's different because the NBA had to get involved and investigate because it's one of the owners. So maybe it's a different situation. But the Celtics...
The Suns can't investigate their own owner, I guess.
I mean, they could have had other people within the ownership investigate him.
Yeah, but that would have to be a majority thing, and that would have to be because they have shareholders, right?
Yeah, but there was an update on the story as well. So Chris Mannix, who is a great NBA writer for SI, and he also does a podcast on Colin Cowherd's podcast network, The Volume, and I think he works. He does he's a really good job with the NBA. He put out a tweet saying Ime Udoka has considered the possibility of resigning. Internally, coaches and staff members are bracing for the likelihood that Udoka will be suspended for 1 year for having a relationship with a female staffer.
Now, he is he is not he's not married. He's dating the actress Neil Long, and they've been together
we'll get to that.
And they have a child together. They were engaged actually 7 years ago. So
we'll get to that because there's a certain somebody I'm not happy with in the world of media that kind of took it a step too far.
There is some home wrecking involved, but I'm not. I mean, like I said, it's hard to judge this without taking the context of what the NBA didn't do, and then did it, or didn't do, and then tried to fix.
But wait a minute. The NBA was not involved with this situation with the Celtics and Ime Udoka. This was a team decision on a punishment.
But the Celtics probably figured, you know what, we're not going to do what the NBA and the Suns did. If we're going to do this, we're going to take care of it our way.
No. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that there's a difference here. The NBA and Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, for people who don't know, got involved and directly took an investigation into this, including I forgot her name, Tamika, whoever's the NBA head of the players rep.
Not Tamika Mallory.
Her last name starts with a T also. But the point is, they all got involved. I'm looking it up because I can't remember. Oh, Tamika Tremaglio is her name. She's the executive director of the MBPA. And they made a lot of statements. They got involved. And I think the NBA should get involved in this situation, technically. But they're not going to because the Celtics already took care of it on their own.
Yes, because they don't feel the need to get involved because they won't unless they feel they have to, or because they usually don't want to move on things unless you make them do the work. So, which is to their detriment. But there's like, okay, let the Celtics handle it. It's internecine stuff.
I want to know how long this was going on for.
Well, that's what we don't know, right? That's one of the things we don't know yet, right?
And by the way, if this was going on for, I don't know, 8-9 months, then the Celtics need to be held accountable for it.
I mean the Celtics. I mean, what do you mean? What do you mean holding the Celtics accountable? Because this is the Celtics holding themselves.
No. I'm saying if this was known for a long period of time and they just put the punishment out now because they're just revealing the story now.
For a long time. Oh well, there you go.
I'm saying that if it was known, like if it comes out that they've been sitting on this for 8 to 9 months, then the Celtics need to be held accountable.
But what was done in this case, I probably feel like I should add. In this case, what Ime Udoka did and what Robert Sarver did, night and day. What Sarver did was infinitely worse.
Of course it was worse. Sarver was involved with race and misogynistic situations
and cultivating an abusive workplace.
Sarver's situation, I will still say to this day, was worse than Donald Sterling with the Clippers.
He probably should have gotten. He probably should have gotten. Well, we've made that argument that he should have gotten a bigger suspension. Should have been banned, probably. But
I mean, think about the situations with Deshaun Watson and Calvin Ridley in the NFL. Calvin Ridley got a year for gambling. Deshaun Watson got 11 games.
Exactly, and that was the point that Stephen A. was making. Well, that's one of the points that he was trying to make.
Well, he's another head case.
State your grievance. State your grievance.
So basically, I was asking Nick, because I always look at Nick and I look at Tom for our sports show and for here for journalistic answers, because even though I understand the broadcasting space and I know the rules for broadcasting, you understand the journalistic.
Journalism is a different beast entirely. Broadcast journalism, especially.
So Stephen A. goes on first take. By the way, Stephen A. are you surprised that Stephen A. turned this into a race debate?
He normally doesn't, because he's usually the person who, plays the whole respectability politics kind of thing, like the kind of yelling at black people, going "pull up your pants," that kind of thing. But I mean, I don't see that there's I don't think that there is a racial dimension to this, but I also would not be surprised if a white guy did this. He would get a relative slap on the wrist compared to what Ime Udoka got. But again, I've got no proof on me to prove or disprove that notion. It's just a feeling I have. I think Stephen A. was trying to believe. I think Stephen A. feels that way, but he doesn't want to say that it's a feeling. That it's just a feeling, right?
Right.
Does that make any sense?
I guess that makes sense, but the quote that I'm referring to is quote, "There's plenty of white folks on there doing their thing. I don't see the information out about them." What does that have to do with the situation itself?
But what exactly does that mean, Stephen? Does that mean that you know something that we don't?
Well, no, he's saying that if this was a white person, then we wouldn't be talking about it.
But he's implying by that statement that other coaches are getting away with it, and he's the one who got punished. Because if that's the case, you better say your piece.
Yeah, and by the way, you better have proof to back that statement up.
If that's the case, then you better say your piece, and you better make it public, because then that opens up the door for Ime Udoka to say, "Hey, this is bullshit."
I mean, well, I'll ask you the question. Don't you think?
And it may very well be that there are other owners getting away with the same thing, but he's the one who gets the heave ho. But we don't have anything to prove it yet. It very well may be the case, but again, the burden. It's about the proof. What do you have?
But let me ask you a question. Yes, I get what you're saying, but I need to ask a question though. Okay. If this statement was brought to you in an article, say you were an editor for an online digital platform, and someone wrote this quote in here, would you be asking a million questions saying, "Where the hell did you get that quote from?"
Which quote?
The one where he said there's plenty of white folks out there doing their thing. I don't see the information out about them.
Well, that would be more of an opinion thing, but if a reporter came out with that, I mean, you're reporting on it, not opinionating on it. So that wouldn't be in there.
But I'm saying it's an odd thing to say.
It's an odd thing to do because Stephen A. is not he's not in journalist mode. He's in pontificating mode.
Well, no, he's not a journalist.
Mode. He's a professional opinion haver. That's what they pay him for.
He's not a journalist anymore, even though he says he's a journalist.
I mean, he's not. He started off that way, which is not to say that Stephen A. is necessarily doing anything wrong. He's doing what he's good at.
You mean stirring? You mean stirring it up?
I don't even think it's that. But you know what? If you're going to make those kinds of accusations, I'm not saying he's wrong, but you know what? Then somebody better fucking say something. If that's the case in the NBA, because if it is, then Ime Udoka really got it. If that's the case, then Ime Udoka really got screwed over.
But you know what's even worse? What Stephen A. did, and this is the problem with journalism and media today, which is he went on First Take, which is the show he does every day from 10 a.m. to noon on ESPN. He revealed the name of the girl,
which is not something that I would do. It's not really something, journalistic standards and practices usually mean that a woman's name in sexual assault, rape cases, and even cases like this where it's a consensual relationship, you try not to use those kinds of names because that's not the person that's important. The person that's important and operative here, the public figure, is Ime Udoka, not the staffer he was having an affair with.
Ime Udoka
came forward and said, "I am the person that Ime Udoka we were having an affair." Then that's a different ball game, but that doesn't seem to be the case here.
Yeah, but Ime Udoka is what I said before, the public figure. Okay, so anything he does, he can't get away from because he's a public figure.
Exactly, but he doesn't see. It doesn't seem like he's not denying any of the allegations. He hasn't put out a statement as of this recording.
Well, as of this recording, there was supposed to be a media day. I don't know if that happened or if it was going to happen, but the Celtics had a planned media day regardless if this was happening or not. So, I don't know. The NBA needs to step in. The NBA needs to look at its policies and fix them.
I mean, at the very least. I mean, this is not a league-wide thing.
It is a league-wide thing.
But we know but it's not a league-wide. It's not a league-wide. What you call it?
What situation?
It's not a league-wide policy that you can't. That you're not allowed to date or have a relationship with your subordinates in a superior subordinate kind of thing. But and that's what makes it inappropriate. The fact that she was his boss or he was her boss. And that opens you up to a whole, a shit ton of conflict of interest, that kind of stuff.
Right, but I don't know. There's so many things wrong with this. I could spend 3 hours talking about this, to be honest. But we'll move on. But I'm not happy about it. The NBA needs, and you know this about me. I'm the biggest NBA fan there is, and there's a lot of things that are turning me off from the NBA right now. Anyway, let's move on. We'll get away from that. Let's talk about food. I know Nick loves doing that. All right. Taco Bell and Beyond Meat unveil a new plant-based food collaboration.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not the kind of I wouldn't call myself.
You like food.
Yes, I like food. I'm fat. I am overweight.
I mean, I'm still a little bit overweight too.
Not like me, you're not. And but I'm see, I don't have the balls to go vegan. I'm sorry. I don't have the willpower.
I wouldn't do it either.
To be a vegetarian or a vegan. And I'm not, and the old joke is, oh, if you want to know if somebody's vegan, just wait, they'll tell you. That's the old joke. But you know what? I'm all the power to you. All the power to you. But you know what? That's going to be remember the point where Beyond Meat was something that you just read about in the magazines where you could create plant protein that tastes like meat and
it looks disgusting. It smells. It's disgusting.
Have you actually eaten it?
I won't eat it.
Do you know anybody who does?
I've seen some people eat it. I refuse. I almost puked when I saw
Was
it.
there anybody you know that eats it?
No, but it smells. It smells awful. It smells. It
But
smells like. Wait a minute. It smells like Pepe Le Pew from the cartoon.
it's not. Maybe that's what it actually is. Not plant protein, but skunk ass.
Oh, but it's bad.
It's not. But you know what? That's not for us to decide. We eat meat. It's usually so. Beyond meat and plant-based substitutes are basically just. It gives the vegetarians and vegans the ability to get in on the party too.
But you know what? That goes.
They're not constantly ordering French fries or sides off the menu if you go to a restaurant.
That again, and I've told this story before.
Consider it, but you
Right.
know what? That was the final hurdle to mainstream adoption. Once Beyond Meat started partnering with all the fast food joints, then you knew it was going to be more of a widespread thing.
Before we get into the story itself, I've told this story before, but I'll tell it briefly again. That when I was at National Community College here on Long Island, and I would always be walking around. You know how most of the schools have the tube tunnels to cross around on the schools?
Yeah.
So one of my classes, the only way I could get to it was through the tube. It's the only way. There was no other way to get to it.
And that's National Community. So it kind of looks like, for those of you who don't know, it kind of looks like kind of like first of all, no offense, but the campus itself kind of has all the charm of a Soviet gulag. So
oh no, none taken. I spent 2 years there and got the hell out of there. But my point was, I was going to my class. The tube was the only way to get down there, and these freaks, and I hate to say it, these I don't know what they call them. The ones that it was like the PETA people almost were blocking the tube where I needed to go to get to my class.
What, like a falafel, like a halal cart?
No, the PETA, the pets organization, the protest group.
Oh, people for the ethical treatment of animals.
Yes, PETA. Yes,
PETA has its own problems because they first of all they have a reputation of killing foster dogs, so I'm not a fan of them.
Right. So the reason I say it is because we're talking about Beyond Meat, we're talking about animals and all that stuff. So they're blocking the tube with all these signs. They're not letting people get to their classes. And they're trying to scream out, "Don't kill the chickens! Don't let the eggs die!" And I'm like, oh, God, why? And I'm like,
the point of what they do, though, is to get in your face. The point is to be a disruption.
Right. So I'm like, get the fuck out of my way. I need to go to my class.
Look, you can make, again, you don't have to support PETA to be, to be concerned about, factory farming and animal rights. And believe me, I understand it. I'm under no such illusions about what they do to actually put the sausage and the barbecue on your plate. I know how the sausage is made. But again, I just don't have the kind of willpower to become vegan or vegetarian myself.
It's how we grew up. It's how we live.
It's not necessarily it's how we grew up, but
you know what?
We just never grew out of it because you get used to it, and when you're a kid you get used to it, and then you grow to like the taste.
No, but the thing is, so like they were annoying me. They wouldn't move. I said, "Move! I need to go." And they just would not. And I'm like, damn it, I'm never going to get to my class. They're blocking the... So I finally, because I was annoyed, and you know me, when you know when I don't like people, I have to instigate with them.
You pushed one of them, didn't you?
No, I didn't push anybody. I said,
what did you do?
I said, if you don't move, I'm going to pull out the chicken sandwich I have in my backpack, and I'm going to eat it.
Of course you would do that.
And of course, they got so mad that I started laughing. I did. I literally had like a chicken and a steak sandwich in my bag. Like,
oh, God.
And
I mean, that's definitely, you know what? They remembered that encounter. I'm telling you.
So finally, they start yelling and they start running off in another direction. I'm finally able to go down the tube and go to my class. But
hey, whatever it is to get them to move. But you know what? I understand the passion. I just disagree with the methodology.
Right. But let's talk about this. So Taco Bell and Beyond Meat unveiled this plant-based, and say the name of the food item again.
Carne asada.
So they're calling
you don't have to say it right because Taco Bell's not Mexican food. It's Taco Bell.
right. So
It is its
called
own thing.
it's called Beyond Carne Asada Steak.
So it's basically textured plant or engineered plant protein to made to look like steak and behave like steak does, which I didn't realize that food behaves a certain way.
What is this? Is this more science instead of real food?
No, it's actual food. It's just they do science things to it, much in the same way that a lot of vegetables are genetically modified to make them grow bigger.
By the way, I prefer that I don't have chemicals in my vegetables.
Not every chemical is bad for you, though, but I understand the trepidation.
So here's what they're doing: the plant-based protein, which primarily consists of vital wheat gluten and faba bean protein, will be tested. By the way, if I can't tell you what those two things are, you should be afraid already.
You know what fava beans are. You know what a bean is.
I know wheat gluten. I didn't know fava bean, but it will be tested at about 50 Taco Bell locations in the Dayton, Ohio area, starting October 13th, before a wider rollout to follow if the test goes well. So basically, they're saying if people like crappy vegetarian food, then they're going to roll it out.
Well, you've made certain choices in your life when you decide to eat a Taco Bell at all. I mean, not that I'm making fun of them because look at me. I'm well acquainted, but
don't get me wrong. Let me say one thing. I like to eat vegetables. Okay, I don't mind it. I eat salads. I eat salads. I try to. I go on that. I don't know if you can see it, but I go on that exercise bike behind me over there. I try at least 3 to 4 days a week. But don't tell me what to eat, please. Don't tell me what I'm going to eat.
Nobody's telling you what to eat, though.
No, they're shoving it in our face with all these commercials and bullshit.
Because they're selling it to vegans and vegetarians.
My favorite is, it kind of reminds me of Burger King's Impossible Meat, Impossible Whopper.
Yeah. Because that's another company that partnered with the fast food. Like I said, once they partnered with the fast food joints, you'd be amazed how much more widespread it was going to become.
By the way, did you also see Panda Express had a version called Beyond Orange Chicken?
I don't go. Really?
Yes.
Oh, I would have thought the PF Chang's would be first, but I don't go to Panda Express, so
I don't either. I've had PF Chang's though.
There are plenty of other great Chinese places around me where I don't need to go.
I'm totally with you. We have a local Chinese place that we like way better.
Yeah, because if you're gonna have Chinese food, go local.
If you're eating branded Chinese food, what's wrong with you? That's what I'll say.
You might. I mean, I was just in South Carolina. I could count the amount of local Chinese places that are comparable to what we have up here on one hand, maybe on a couple of fingers. So there are people who live in deserts where there are not a lot of Asian people to start, or people that know Asian cooking enough to open up a restaurant and
right.
Or you got the goofy white guys trying to gentrify
it. By the way, did you know that Taco Bell and Beyond Meat were working on this for over 2 years?
Well, of course. And then they'll charge the shit out of it. They'll charge the shit out of us for it.
Listen to this. Quote, it just took a lot of back and forth and a lot of iterations to get it right. We needed the flavor to be there, the texture, the mouth feel.
It needed to taste like steak and not like what it actually was, which was...
You mean a load of scientific bullshit?
I mean vegetable protein. Oh, God.
And I love the end of this because it says, consumers have flocked to Taco Bell's cost-attractive cravings value menu.
Okay.
Especially amid inflation, and the brand recently completed an incredibly successful Mexican pizza relaunch.
That is something that stupefies me. Why is it that everybody loves the Mexican pizza? I don't get it. I don't get it.
You and I talked about that when it relaunched.
I know that, but that thing has been on the menu since we were kids, and I just never understood the appeal.
By the way, And I didn't realize this. Did you know Beyond Meat has a stock on the stock market?
Yes, they do. They're publicly traded.
And did you know they're down whoever wrote this article deserves to be smacked. Down a whopping 85% so far in 2022.
Ouch.
Gee, shouldn't that tell you that maybe they should go? They like Mr. Wonderful on Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary, take it behind the barn and shoot it.
Oh, God.
By the way,
do we have the other story? By the way,
yes, I do. So there's a part 2 to this as well. So Beyond Meat's COO, Doug Ramsey, bit a guy's nose at the worst possible time.
He was arrested for assault because of this, wasn't he?
I think so, yeah. Let me see if I have it. I do have it here. But this story is bizarre. Like, so your company's getting all these partnership deals, and now your CEO is biting people's noses.
I do have one question, though, Doug. Did it taste like chicken? No, you know what? He could have just explained to the cops, you know what? I'm doing market research. I'm just trying to find out what the next flavor should be. And it turns out people is actually a good substitute. So instead of watch Beyond People.
So it says the police report claims that Ramsey exited his car, punched through the back windshield of the offending car. Then, when the other driver exited their vehicle, Ramsey punched them multiple times. Finally, the report alleges that Ramsey also bit the other person's nose, ripping the flesh. Like, you can't make this up. What does he think? He's invincible?
I mean, Jesus Christ.
Does he think he's a superhero?
I mean, I don't know if a superhero that bites people's noses.
No, not the noses, like punching through windows and not like getting hurt or anything.
He's just trying to do his I'm a big strong man bit.
No, he's trying to be the Hulk.
He's the Hulk.
But
God.
So it says the CEO has been charged with felony battery and making a terroristic threat.
And
he was released on $11,085 in bond.
I guarantee you, if he comes into the after this is settled, because the man's too rich to go to jail. Because why should a rich man ever actually have to face any consequences for the bad things he does? But you know what? Once that happens, he's basically you're in trouble when he comes to the staff meeting Monday morning and saying, you know what? We're gonna pivot to human flesh.
By the way, insert your Mike Tyson joke here.
You bit him in the wrong spot.
Oh my God. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, though. So Beyond Meat is going beyond meat.
They're going beyond meat into humans.
All right. Speaking of being in the doghouse. Now, Nick, this is abnormal for us, this next story, would you say?
Oh, I'd say so.
Now, what are the rules usually we have for this show, if you remember correctly? What type of stories don't we usually do?
We tend to stay away from the kind of celebrity gossip, the TMZ-like kind of stories.
Well, no, we have some TMZ stories, but
yeah, which is cool. But we tend to stay away from the celebrity relationship stories because that's not really either of our area of expertise.
It's not that it's our area, whether it's our area of expertise. They're just boring.
Yeah, because ultimately, who cares? You're talking about an element that really doesn't affect people's lives in any way. But this is a different beast altogether. So Adam Levine, the lead singer of Maroon 5 and
one of my favorite bands, by the way,
Tattoo Enthusiast,
that's putting it lightly,
allegedly cheated on his wife with multiple women he met through Instagram
models.
Instagram models. So 22, 21, 22, 23-year-old.
By the way, can we just, and I get frustrated by this. Instagram model is a job.
Look, we've had this argument before. If there's a way to make money off of something, they'll find a way to make money off
But
of something.
Instagram model.
We've talked about this before, though.
What's next? What's next? Are we just going to have like some... Well, actually, I was going to say, are they going to do live sex on the internet? But they have OnlyFans, so technically they do.
They've been doing that since we were kids.
No, not the way.
There's been internet porn since there's been an internet.
No, but that's recorded shit that goes up. This is the OnlyFans sometimes does like live shit.
Well, the cam girl stuff is fairly new, but
no, it's not.
That's neither here nor there. in a system where you can make six figures just being a moron on TikTok.
Well,
Instagram model is not really that far of a leap.
But basically, what's going on here? So allegedly, because we don't know everything, Adam Levine cheated on Behati Prinsloo, that's his wife,
which is his wife,
and a model. Yes,
and a model, and she's actually gorgeous herself. So,
and they have 3 kids, don't they already?
They have 3 kids. So
no, they have 2. She's pregnant with the third.
Pregnant with another. So the man's a philandering piece of shit, apparently.
Well, we don't know the whole story. We don't. So I don't want to
know the whole story. Adam Levine has not put out a statement. However, what they have put out is the Instagram models in question that he was trying to hook up with.
Well, apparently, look at the quote here. He told one, quote, he might get away with it.
He might get away with it. So I'm wrong. He did put out a statement, and the statement says that he didn't cheat on his wife, but he...
So now we're going to get into semantics.
He courted women, which is, what are you, a knight in the Middle Ages?
I mean, you're not knighting someone.
He was ATC, attempting to cheat. He was attempting to cheat. It's attempted infidelity, which is not the same thing as attempted murder, but it's attempted infidelity. So,
I mean, you realize who we're talking about, right? We're talking about a guy who's every girl wants.
I mean, Adam Levine's reputation, to say nothing of his musical talent, the man's image just,
Well, no, this is the first time I've ever heard of him getting into a scandal like this before.
I mean, the man who looks like that, the slinky, muscular, never met a tattoo he didn't want to put on himself, that guy?
Well, wait, you're judging someone for tattoos now?
No, I'm judging for someone of he's a lead singer in a rock and roll band. Of course they're scumbags. That is in their native tongue.
Well, first of all, like I said, the only issues I know of him was like when he was when he left The Voice, and there was a whole issue that went on because he did The Voice for like 13 seasons or something. Like he was the original
he was one of the original voices
with Blake Shelton. Blake Shelton's the only original left. But I don't know. I mean, if he did this, then he's a douchebag. He's an asshole. Like if it's proven that he did it, then she should leave him.
She should leave him, but I mean, it's not. There's a lot more involved in this. I guarantee you.
And this is also messy because you have kids involved too, and she's pregnant.
Yeah. So as much as I would like to say to Behati, you know what? For your own safety, just drop the son. Just leave the son of a bitch. But it's more complicated than that.
But again, as you would say,
by the way, it's got nothing to do with the fact that I hate Maroon 5's music.
You hate Maroon 5?
Oh yeah. Well, again, I should qualify. They're a fantastic band live. That band never shows up on their records.
What?
They are way too. Look, the music that I listen to. Your Beatles, your AC/DCs, your Black Sabbath.
I listen to that stuff. Yeah,
but that's the Maroon 5 is not that. Your Jimi Hendrixes. Now
you're predating yourself a little bit here.
Your Black Keys, your White Stripes, you're the Highly Suspect. These are the kinds of bands that I gravitate towards. However, Maroon 5 does not fit that sonic profile. So, you know what? I'm less militant in my music than I used to be. Because I used to say, why would anybody listen to that crap? And you know what? I realized something. A lot of people listen to that crap because they like it. It speaks to them. So you know what? There's music I don't listen to. But I'm not going to kick up a fuss if I listen to something or if they listen to something and I don't.
I'll give you an
Because
example.
you know what? I don't get it, but you know what? That's me.
I'll give you an example. For many years, I hated country music. Hated it. I wouldn't listen to it. I didn't care for it. And then,
I don't care for it either. Believe it or not.
but now, like, ever since like I started doing it when I started listening to it in National Community College. I actually kind of like it a little bit now. So, and I started playing it on shows when I was still doing music shows on the radio. But long story short, if this is proven to be true, then she's got to leave him and take the kids with her.
You can't allow that man to do it because he's a father. I mean, famous or no famous, you have a responsibility to be a father, to be present, to be a husband. I mean,
and you know what's even worse? That they made an announcement that he's going on the tour because apparently there's a tour going on Maroon 5. He's not. They're not making him stay back.
But of course, Maroon 5 has long been not about the other guys in the band. It's always been the Adam Levine show featuring Maroon 5 to the detriment of the other musicians in the band because their guitar player, believe it or not, is actually quite good.
He is really good.
James Valentine, but
he's the one with the longer hair, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He can really play, but again, you never hear it by listening to their music. But they would never cancel a tour because if they don't have Adam Levine, what do they have?
Well, I think him and James started the band, if I'm not mistaken,
yes,
right?
They did.
Okay, so unfortunately, you're right.
His bandmates are going to support him, though.
Right,
so.
But unfortunately, you were right. What you just said. If Adam Levine is not there, they're not going to sell. They're not going to sell.
Exactly.
I mean, people will be happy to see Maroon 5 if they're fans of the music.
If they know the music, if they're a diehard, they know the band.
But they're going to miss the singing aspect because he's the one that does.
But the people who buy Maroon 5 records, I mean, the people who show up to that like them casually, they like the band for Adam Levine, so they'll show up to see him.
And the problem is, if Adam Levine's not there, who's singing? No one.
Exactly.
That's the issue. That was the one weird thing I didn't understand with Maroon 5, that Adam was the only one that sang.
Well, yeah, that's a good point.
Because what happened if he got sick or he couldn't go on tour? Do you have to cancel the whole tour?
And what are you going to do?
That
you can do.
There's not, because no one else sings.
Exactly.
Unless you're going to do what some of these bands do and they find a front man, temporary front man, and that sounds like shit.
It's like Axl Rose singing with AC/DC or Steven Tyler singing with Led Zeppelin,
or look what the Beach Boys did for the last 5 years. It sounds like shit.
Oh, I've got stories to tell you about the Beach Boys.
I mean, by the way,
my goodness, do I hate it? But that's neither here nor there.
I'll say one last thing, and then I'll go. Kyle, who hosts the Her Show on our network, he told me that basically, I don't know if you remember when the Beach Boys, because it's really not the Beach Boys.
It's Mike Love featuring the Beach Boys.
Right. When they went and performed the July 4th thing in front of the White House and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Kyle told me he wasn't even singing.
What, it was lip synced?
Basically, he was tracking to a track.
Oh, boy.
What does that tell you? And John Stamos, who, by the way, is the luckiest son of a bitch I've ever seen in my life, who gets every opportunity, going out and drumming, being the drummer for the Beach Boys, or what's left of the Beach Boys at this point. Kyle told me also that they were tracking the drums, even though he was sitting there.
Yep.
Are you kidding me? People are paying a lot of money to see them, and they're not even playing for real. You can't make this up. All right, let's move on. Since we'll stay in the world of celebrity BS, let's talk about this story. So Tiffany Haddish and Arie Spears, accuser, drops lawsuit over alleged child sexual abuse scandal. Now, we talked about this when this story came out. If you remember, this was a big story, huge story.
It did.
Now,
and actually, I think, did it lead off one of our episodes?
It did, because it was massive. It was a huge story. Why are you dropping the lawsuit?
which considering the seriousness of the allegations and considering the stakes of what was being thrown about, I would imagine there's some kind of cash settlement.
Now, Tiffany Haddish has come out over the last couple of weeks,
and she's the one who said she didn't do it. So,
well, she came out and said that
Arie Spears.
She said she lost all her gigs. Gee, I wonder why you lost all your gigs.
I wonder why. So, at a certain point, I can't. If there was a cash settlement involved, I mean, I would imagine the alleged victims in the case were probably seeing everything.
All right, this is bad. What I'm reading,
they were seeing all the backlash that and all the scrutiny that they would get, and because people would come out of the woodwork saying you're destroying Tiffany Haddish's and Arie Spears' careers for nothing, and they didn't want that backlash. So
wait a minute.
I understand.
Wait, so TMZ reports the accuser identified, because they won't name them, as Jane Doe in her Los Angeles Supreme Court suit, asked the judge to dismiss the case with prejudice. The 22-year-old's request was granted, and the lawsuit has been formally dropped. Quote, "My family and I have known Tiffany Haddish for many years. We now know that she would never harm me or my brother or help anyone else do anything that could harm us. We wish Tiffany the best and are glad that we can all put this behind us." How did we go from major scandal to, well, she didn't do anything?
There had to have been some deal being reached. I'm sorry, because you don't go from you don't go from they did this thing to, because are you saying you made it all up?
Well, here's the list.
Because I hate to think that was because that would make people that actually had this happen to them look bad.
Well, can't they get charged for like faking a crime, or is there a crime? Is there a charge for that?
Well, filing a false police report, yes, but if they didn't file a false police report, technically that's not a criminal thing, that's a civil thing.
So it says here they sued Haddish and Spears for intentional infliction of emotional distress, gross negligence, sexual battery, sexual harassment, and sexual abuse of a minor. That's pretty significant charges.
Pretty significant, and I would really hope that you didn't the two plaintiffs didn't make it up.
It also
either way, this is really, really bad, because honestly,
it also says here that
because it's making people who actually go through this, now they're automatically going to be doubted, because it's like,
I mean, is this the boy who cried wolf? I mean, like,
yeah.
I don't know, but it says also, and we talked about this, they allege the comedians recruited them to take part in sexually explicit skits and separate incidents when both were minors. So, what the hell? Now you're saying all this never happened? What was it?
Honestly, I don't know, and I don't think we'll ever find out.
What was it? A bad dream? Like, did you dream it happened, and then all of a sudden you woke up and said it didn't? I don't understand.
It just it becomes it's just a problem. That's all I can say.
And then it says,
I really, because either option, whether they were paid off or they made it up, it really doesn't. Option A reflects badly on Tiffany Haddish and Arie Spears, because then they would have covered it up. Option B would have been bad, because if you made it up, then everybody else who's actually had this happen to them is automatically going to be disbelieved, because it's the boy who cried wolf, like you said.
And so I'll leave it off on this. Now that Jane and John Doe's suit has been dismissed with prejudice, the complaint cannot be refiled.
So I guess we're all just moving on.
Well, no, I guess by law, because they said with prejudice. I don't know how that works, but I guess that means they can't go back. It's like, I guess it's a quicker version of, statute of limitations, in a sense. but I don't know. I really don't know. All right, moving on. Let's talk about Floyd Mayweather and Connor McGregor. Too bad Tom's not here.
Where's Tom when I need him?
So Floyd Mayweather came out and made a statement and said, "I want to fight McGregor in 2023. Real fight, not exhibition."
Which, what? Don't you have enough money?
I mean, wait a minute. He made $100 million off the last fight they
Made
had.
$100 million off the last fight, and you're not satisfied?
Actually,
I mean, seriously, are you actually working under the impression, Floyd, that this is actually about the sport of the combat sports of it all, or is it, or are you? Because I don't think he's realized that the entire thing is a freak show.
oh, I didn't even realize it. So there was
either he's being willfully obtuse, or he just needs that money really bad.
Well, I think we can put this to bed pretty quick because there was an update to the story that says Conor McGregor made it short and sweet. He used a two fingers emoji, like when you, and then he wrote #not interested.
Okay, so there's that.
Wait a minute, Conor McGregor's taking the high road?
Wow, what has he been kidnapped and replaced by? Has he been kidnapped and replaced by aliens?
Wow. I didn't expect him to take the high road there.
Neither did I.
Because I would have thought Conor McGregor would have jumped all over it for the money.
Because again, this is not. If anything, Conor McGregor knows that combat sports is kind of a freak show. He knows that it's not about the sports of it all; it's about the show of it all.
Now,
it's like I'll fight a horse if it gives me some attention. It's, I mean, Jesus Christ.
So Floyd is rumored to have made around $300 million. When the last time they fought, Floyd made $300 million and Conor made $100 million. That's what the two pulled away from the fight for the first bout. And money made it clear he'll be getting another ridiculously big check when they fight again. They've already talked to me about my number and what number that I'm going to receive. Floyd told us adding 9 figures. Is anyone interested in the fight?
Don't say that, because I guarantee you somebody somewhere, if it's not Dana, somebody somewhere is going to be chomping at the bit to stream that fight.
Why do I feel like Vince is going to make like a pop-up like EWW instead of WWE, EWW, and just say, I'll take it.
By the way, I'm back.
I'm back with the EWW.
Oh God.
So basically, let's see. We got to start at least $100 million for Floyd Mayweather. It's also significant that Floyd said real fight, meaning not an exhibition. By the way, I didn't realize he was 50-0, perfect record.
Neither did I.
But Mayweather also revealed the likely location. The Raiders' new football stadium, Allegiant Stadium. How are you doing this if Connor's not agreeing to it?
I don't know. Maybe he's just making up this fight in his head.
Did you know that Floyd also has a few exhibition bouts coming up?
Which, again, he doesn't need the money.
He made $300 million off the fight with Connor.
Why? If you were doing this for pride, you wouldn't be doing this at all. You're Floyd Mayweather. You don't need to prove anything to anybody.
What's his nickname? Floyd Money Mayweather.
Again, but you don't need to you don't need to prove anything to anybody else. So why are you indulging in this fantasy?
So it says that Mayweather is boxing Japanese MMA star Mikuru Asakura in Japan. Then in November, this one made me laugh. He has a bout that'll be of interest to many people. He's fighting YouTuber turned boxer
Jake Paul.
No. And KSI's brother, DG.
Never heard of him.
Have you ever heard of KSI?
See, Tom probably knows who I'm talking. Tom and Zane probably know who I'm talking about. God, I gotta get them on speed dial.
Yeah, go check out MMA Outsiders on. It's now Tuesday mornings.
Tuesday mornings at 9.
9 a.m. now.
Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m. Pluggity plug plug. It's a great show. You should check it out.
9 a.m. Eastern time, by the way. But I don't know what he's doing. It says Floyd also showed off some of his insanely rare and valuable timepieces. This was crazy. I saw this. And
Is this an episode of MTV Cribs, I guess?
No, but the watch, which has like hundreds of thousands of like expensive crystals on it.
You don't need the money. You've got plenty of it.
Wait, listen to this. So he was wearing a Jacob and Company billionaire watch, which was worth $18 million. Can you imagine wearing an $18 million watch?
No.
I'd be terrified. Like, I'm terrified I'd get attacked for my watch. Not Mayweather. Mayweather can defend himself on everything. I wouldn't go a step near him.
Nope.
But all right, let's move on here. Let's talk about this one. Nick didn't know about this originally at first, but it was a big story. So Jeff Garlin reveals bipolar disorder day after the Goldbergs kills off his character.
Now, I know that Jeff Garlin was written out of the Goldbergs because of him having a reputation of being difficult to work with.
But he was on the show for a long time.
He was on the show since the beginning, believe it.
Right.
I think.
Yeah. And a bunch of things went down, apparently. So it says Jeff Garlin, the former star of ABC's The Goldbergs, whose controversial real-life departure from the show saw his character killed off on the sitcom, saying he suffers from bipolar disorder, a diagnosis he revealed for the first time in a brief Instagram post.
I would like to not think this is his excuse. He's using this as an excuse for the way he acted, because it was technically ABC's own probe, because he was not being, accused by somebody else of doing this thing. It's the network itself that was looking into this behavior. But again, that could explain a lot as to, why, not that people who have bipolar disorder are, inherently abusive, but again, the way people deal with it when it's untreated differs from person to person.
Right. So
and I think that go ahead.
He's quoted as saying bipolar is a motherfucker. Sometimes it's just too much to deal with. I'm doing the best I can. This is the first time that I've opened up about this.
Which, you know what? Good on him for opening up. Because, again, not that I'm excusing what he did or what he's accused of doing, but there is already such a stigma around mental health, especially for men his age. And the fact that men have... Look, I mean, when our fathers were kids, you didn't go to therapy.
Therapy didn't exist.
No, therapy existed, but you went to therapy when you were hallucinating things that weren't there.
Well, no, therapy was when you were a complete loon back in the day.
If they needed to put you in a straitjacket, they put you to therapy, because that was the common perception of
therapy.
Therapist, when our dads were kids.
Therapy is a much different situation now. Therapy, people can go to therapy just to talk about their life. Now.
There's a therapy shortage because the mental health care system in this country is completely broken. But that's still it
also didn't help.
That's a conversation for another day. But
it also didn't help that COVID kept us in our houses for 2 years. But
yeah, and people are still dealing with the fallout from that and everything that's gone on in the past 7 years. That's why everybody needs to go to therapy, because everybody needs to get our heads on straight.
But here's the issue.
Including me. Again, I've never been against. I've always been an advocate of seeking mental health, because, again, that's the thing. You literally convince yourself when you're sick and hurting, you can convince yourself that there's nothing wrong and it's everybody else's fault, until you feel worse and worse and worse and worse, and
and then it comes out and it bites you.
It becomes a hole that you can't dig yourself out of.
You know what?
And the fact that you aren't able to talk about it, or you're thought of as weak or a sissy, or just suck it up and have a couple of beers and just forget about it in the morning.
Oh, well,
not like that.
Well, guess what? When you tell someone to drink a couple of beers, what does that lead to eventually?
Because you're covering up your problems with alcohol. That leads to alcoholism.
That's my point.
Think about how many people Men, women, any gender, any gender, anybody who instead of going to therapy, they drank to excess, and then they came home and then they beat their kids and their spouses,
Let's put
or
it
they
this
were
way.
abusive. Again, think about how many problems were caused by people just not going to therapy.
You know what? Mental health should not be treated as a stigma. It should be treated as we have
what it is,
what it is.
what it is. You need help, and you know what? There's nothing to be ashamed of. It's not that you are inherently broken and that there's something eternally wrong with you.
No,
No,
but there's another issue, which is man syndrome, is what I like to call it. Basically,
toxic masculinity, machismo no bueno.
because when you have a mental health problem, no, I don't know what you're talking about.
What do you think I am, a sissy? Huh? You think you know more than me?
And
Huh?
I hate to say this also, women have that problem partially too, where they don't want to admit they have a mental health issue.
But that's why I say it's something that affects everybody.
People need to understand that
Because either you think you know more than you know yourself better than you know the therapist, which is, in a lot of cases that's not true, because that's why therapists go to school for all those years and pay all that money in student loans to find out how they can know you better than you know yourself.
But the weird thing is, and I hope
Or
this
to
doesn't
help you understand yourself better than you do.
I hope this doesn't get me in trouble, but when I look at therapy, anyone can sit and talk to you about how to deal with problems. Okay? You can talk to a family member, a friend, and to be honest, like whenever I was in school, people would come to me and talk to me about problems. I guess because I was just good at having conversations with people. But
Yeah. Did you see a social worker when you were at school?
I did, yeah.
I did.
And I have no problem saying that because it is what it is. Like
I did too. From the time I was in first grade to the time I was a senior in high school.
Well,
And even in college.
Part of the problem I had was I would get angry at teachers in high school and middle school when they did dumb things. Like, and not like, and I'm not talking about going crazy angry. Like, you know me. Like, I have a very sarcastic. What?
But it's a defense mechanism. You internalize a lot of the things that you are feeling. Not that I'm all of a sudden turning into Dr. Phil at this point.
Well, no, but I'd rather be open rather than holding it in because that's how I am. Like,
but learning how to process those emotions in a healthy, helpful way, in a way that's beneficial to you, is a skill that you don't have when you're a kid, and you need to learn.
Right. And I'll tell you a quick thing because I know we're actually doing a lot better on time this episode than we did the last couple episodes because we were way over. But I'm not going to say where or what, but I had an incident with a teacher who constantly gave me a hard time in a English class. It was not my strongest subject. I didn't understand Shakespeare. A lot of us didn't understand Shakespeare. A lot of us.
Yeah.
And I was not great at writing. I'm a lot better at writing now. But she just gave me a hard time. Why I couldn't do it and whatever. And I did not like her. I did not like her. We did not get along. Every time I was in that class, I would sit there and have anxiety every single day because I didn't like her. And then there were times where this was unlike me. I would just be mean and say things to her because she would get on my nerves. Okay.
And that's not healthy.
And that's not who I am either. I was never raised that way.
That's unfair to her too. But again, these are things that you learn when you're a kid. But imagine if you had not gone to therapy. I mean, I did the same. But I'm physically disabled. That's something that I've dealt with my entire life, and that's something that's affected me in my anxiety and how I perceive the world, and being able to talk to somebody about the things that I'm feeling and hearing, and have them actually understand me and not trivialize
what
I was going through. It helps because if I didn't, it would have made me angry or I was angry when I was a kid because I couldn't do the things that other people could, and it made me sad, and I didn't understand why it made me sad. But you know what? Being able to talk about those things was a big help. But
Right.
imagine if we didn't.
Right.
Who
And
we'd be.
the big thing is with me,
Which is not to say that it's an immediate fix. No, it's a process. It's something that happens every day.
my biggest thing also was proving people wrong that told me I couldn't do certain things. That was a big frustration I had with
You're
this.
You're an engine of spite. You spite people. Yeah.
Well, and I think I've done a good job of it over the years
Yeah, you have.
because that teacher told me I was never going to graduate college.
And then you did.
Oh, and the quick story and the quick prelude I'll say is I showed up back at the high school thing that they have. They have a day every year where like the alumni show back up at the high school and they go see the teachers and whatnot. This was right after I finished all of college. I went to Nestle Community College. By the way, got a 3.5 GPA first 2 years. Graduated with honors from Nestle Community College.
Not good for you.
Went off to LIU, finished almost with a 3.7, and I graduated. And I was into what do they call those society things? I was in 3 of those honors society groups, the Kappa groups.
Yeah.
So I showed up at my high school, and I went and I saw the teacher. And she recognized me, too. So I went into the classroom. I brought the honors stuff.
Brought it with you.
And I went, what do you have to say now?
And, of course, I had nothing to say.
And she's like, what is this? I said, it's honors. I said, you told me I was never going to graduate. I said, next time, before you judge someone, don't judge them with a book. Don't judge the book by its cover.
Or you know what? It's like that Walt Whitman quote that they used in Ted Lasso. Be curious, not judgmental.
I agree.
Slowly.
So I said, next time, before you judge somebody, think about it, because I graduated with an honors degree plus when you told me I was never going to graduate. So, all right, let's move on. 2 more quick stories. These are funny stories. I saved them for the end. Let's start with Johnny Depp. So, Johnny Depp is dating his UK lawyer from the defamation trial from the one in London. Now, that's the case they lost, by the way. So, I'm kind of confused here. Like, what?
So, we've had to tread very lightly about this story because considering the online frenzy that was whipped up to try and go after Amber Heard, a lot of that turned out to be YouTube bots, by the way. So, well, of course, there you go. There was an army of bots supporting him, but again, Johnny Depp. This is step 1 of Mr. Of I'm rehabbing my career, which just goes to prove my theory. Cancel culture doesn't exist for people like that. Johnny Depp in a lot of ways, he was too big to be canceled. He was too much of.
They want him in the reboot. They want him in the reboot still.
Yeah, the Disney's trying. Yeah, because then he'll start dating again. Then maybe he'll marry, start a family, write a book.
He already has. He's dating. And by the way, this woman that he's dating, she's getting divorced from someone else.
For him.
Wait a minute. It's not over yet. They're in the process of getting divorced.
Which, fantastic.
And she has kids.
Fantastic, because you know what? If I say what I want to say, we'd be swarmed. But you know what?
What were you going to say?
Because Johnny Depp is uncancelable. No matter what he did,
it's a good point.
No matter what he admitted to doing, whether he was abusive to Amber Heard was abusive to him. You should not be abusive to a woman ever.
Agreed.
But Johnny Depp, no matter what he did, or what he was accused of doing, he was uncancelable because he was a big Hollywood movie star.
I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying.
Because there were generations of people who grew up watching his movies, and now they're adults, and they can't square that Johnny Depp with the Johnny Depp that Amber Heard was telling us about. The person that he actually supposedly, allegedly is behind closed doors. And I'm not saying anything out of recess here. This is all stuff that Amber Heard talked about.
No, I agree with you. And the way the situation looks, it looks
not, because he can't, because again, but that's where the profit motive comes out, because you can make a lot more money out of saying I'm the victim and getting everybody to feel sorry for you.
No, that's an issue. And the way I look at this,
and to the degree to which he did wrong is not debatable. The degree to which he did wrong, or he was done wrong by somebody else, that's up in the air, because you can't say that he's not innocent. He's not completely innocent by any stretch of the imagination.
This whole thing,
at the very least.
First of all, both sides did something wrong here. Now, it's debatable about which side did what, but both sides did something wrong here. Okay, both sides had issues with one another. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a case.
Exactly. Okay. But you know what? But you know what? That's the way the legal system works. But you know what? Cancel culture was only ever going to be another avenue for people who do things or say things that people disagree with to make money. It's a way for them to sidestep criticism and act like the aggrieved party.
But why are you dating the lawyer from the case? There's no conflict there?
Well, the case is the case over?
This was the one before the U.S. case. Remember, this went on before?
Yeah, technically it's not. It's still kind of skeezy though. It's still kind of skeezy, especially considering the woman's got a child and she was just divorced. I mean, come on.
I think he had 2 kids and it was a strange husband.
I mean, come on. Did it say if she left her husband for him, or
it just says they were in the process of getting divorced?
All right, so I'm not gonna do that because we don't know the full details.
It's still wrong though.
Yeah, but the long and short of it is that Johnny Depp is they couldn't cancel him, which is cancel culture is not real.
Well, but here's the thing: even though he's not cancelable, you know how much fucking debt he's in?
Well, yeah, that was because he was spending money. He was spending money like a drunken sailor. Pardon the pun.
No, but
he was spending money he didn't have, exorbitant amounts of money he didn't have on shit he didn't need.
But I'm just saying is so I forgot how much money they said.
Plus, the man had a pretty bad substance abuse problem.
Well, yes, but I was going to say I don't know how much money he was being.
Thank God he's gotten clean.
How much was he being offered reportedly? I don't remember. For what was it, like 25, 30 million?
25 million, I think it was.
Well, that's not going to cover the debt. Apparently, he had a lot of debt.
I don't even know if Disney pays the actors in the MCU that much.
No. But
I'm not even sure if Chris Evans or Robert Downey Jr. got that kind of money to do the Avengers movies. But you know,
I doubt it. No way. Pirates of the Caribbean though was a huge franchise, like huge.
And you know what? They're biding their time until people forget all about this, and then Johnny Depp can just reemerge as Captain Jack Sparrow, and we all move on, and we just don't ever think about the horrible things that Amber Heard said he did, whether they're true or not. I mean, they needed to be given full credence.
I mean, so he'll go do the movie, and like he said, he'll write a book. He'll talk about the case. Maybe he'll do a podcast because that's what everyone's doing now. And
meanwhile,
somehow
probably he's going to get cut out of the next Aquaman movie because of this.
Sure, he did.
But didn't she? Yeah. So who's getting canceled? Is it her or is it him?
Well, technically, I think she's taking the brunt of it.
Yeah, and how is that fair?
It's not. But all right, let's finish off with
let's move on.
Let's finish off with the piece de resistance, the funniest story of this episode. Mike Lindell sues to recover cell phones seized by FBI agents.
Now, this happened a couple weeks ago, and we didn't really get a chance to talk about it, but he went on, I think it was Steve Bannon's podcast.
Wait, Steve Bannon still has a podcast?
It was some podcast he went on.
Steve Bannon's going to be trading in his microphone for an orange jumpsuit soon.
But yeah, so Mike Lindell, he either put out a video. I think he put out a video on Truth Social saying that the FBI seized his phone, took it from him while he was standing in the parking lot of an Arby's.
Yeah, they were just randomly showing up out of the blue. They weren't looking for him at all.
Yeah, like an FBI agent was just there. Oh, nice phone, yoink!
Oh wait, look, it's Mike Lindell. It's Mike Lindell.
Hey, he's the guy. He's the guy with the mustache who loves Jesus and sells pillows.
And was a drug addict.
But no, of course he's acting like the victim. I'm victimized by the deep state. The FBI is after me, and if the FBI is after you, and all you do is sell pillows, all you supposedly do is sell pillows, it must be something interesting.
Or those my slippers.
I'd like to find out.
Or those my slippers, or whatever too.
Because I'm pretty sure they're not trying to conduct any kind of corporate espionage to find out what the my pillows are made of.
I don't want to know. But by the way, he was one of the promoters of the false claims. If you remember that, also with
the fact that the election he was part of Trump's legal team trying to overturn the election right before January 6th.
Wait a minute. What do you mean he was part of the legal team? He's not a lawyer.
He's not a lawyer, but he was one of the people that was part of the scheme.
No, he was too busy trying to make his failed website, which crashed.
I'm serious. They said during the testimony that he was in the White House in the days before January 6th.
Oh, that makes sense.
I don't know if he was an active planner of what happened that day, but he definitely knows more than he's letting on. And that's why the feds are after him.
I don't know anymore.
They're not harassing everybody they see in a Hardee's parking lot, which, I mean, seriously?
Unless you're a drug addict and you're like cartelling like 200 pounds of drugs.
I mean, I would imagine I would imagine that's not the case, but you know what? It's funny because the comedy of the feds just showing up randomly in a Hardee's parking lot is just the comedy of it all. For the reaction of everybody around them must have been like, "What the fuck is going on?"
I'm so glad, and I tell this story all the time. When I was working for John Batchelor, his syndicated radio show. What I was saying, though, basically was when I was working on John Batchelor's syndicated radio show, that I was basically, you remember Lindell had a book that came out, right?
Yeah.
And I was like,
basically an autobiography, right?
Yeah, it was like 4 or 5 years ago now. Like, so it was way before any of this shit happened. And basically what happened was I was like, well, I'll try and set this interview up. Because I did a lot of the book author interview setups for his show. And I'm like, and I got an email back from them. Yeah, sure. And they sent the book. And I was like, oh, God. And it was basically going to happen. And then it never happened. And I was like, I was so lucky it didn't happen.
Oh, boy.
But this is great. Just add this on the tote board of awkward stories.
Awkward stories is what we deal with, and this is our stock and trade here on Beyond the Bench. And you know what? I think that's gonna wrap things up this week, don't you?
I mean, yeah. So make sure you follow us on social media. Follow us again if we didn't burden you already. Twitter, Beyond the Bench 1. Facebook, same thing. Instagram, same thing. Follow us across the network at ETB Network. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Also, if you want to find us on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network, please go, and even below this video, because that's where you'll be on this YouTube channel, hit the red button, hit the bell, make sure you get all the notifications for Beyond the Bench.
Yeah, Beyond the Bench, Empty the Bench, Game On, MMA Outsiders. We've got Fruity Cereal, and we've got other shows going, Living Life, and we've got a new show premiering in October, but that's all I can say about that.
Yeah, that's coming very soon. All I can say is it's about children's media. That's where I'll leave it. There's your tease.
But not creepy, so don't get the wrong idea.
No, it's exploring theories about children's TV shows and media and how theories that you didn't think of. I'll give you an example. Think about Steve from Blue's Clues. What happened to Steve? Okay, that's a theory. All the weird theories that were out there about Steve.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a good show, and once we're ready to fully announce it, we'll bring the details to you. But just keep it here because you don't want to miss a second of it.
Yeah, so that'll do it for episode 48. We're 2 episodes away from episode 50. Look at that.
Exactly, and you know what? We're gonna have to plan some kind of special episode. I don't know what we're gonna do, but you know what? We'll get there. And you know what? We have only our fans and our own stubborn determination to thank for that. But you know what? Until next time, that's my venerable co-host, Mr. Nick Morgasen. I'm Nick Fodera, and I say to you, good folks, good night, everybody. We'll see you back on the bench.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.